Yavapai Broadcasting and the City of Cottonwood proudly present Inside Cottonwood, an inside look at the decisions and issues of the City of Cottonwood. Brought to you by Arizona Smile Designers. Here's Cottonwood City Manager Doug Bartosh.
Welcome to Inside Cottonwood, or I guess I should say welcome. I'm here today with Chief Jody Fanning, and by the way, I'm your city manager and host of Inside Cottonwood. And we're here with our police chief just to talk about what's going on in our world in terms of police work and criminal behavior. And I know one of the things that certainly has been attracting a lot of media attention lately is bath salts and kind of what Yavapai County is doing with bath salts, because it's really pretty innovative. In fact, I noticed yesterday there was a really pretty good article on bath salts in the Arizona Republic. So people are beginning to recognize that it's a real problem and it has some real dangers to it. And fortunately, I'm proud to say Matt Force and law enforcement in Yavapai County have really been on top of this for some time now. But I know the county attorney and local law enforcement has really kind of taken an interesting approach to this. And why don't you talk a little bit about what that approach was and why you took it?
Well, the approach was that we, Sheila Polk, the county attorney, and one of her, Scott Blake, her assistant county attorneys, they took the approach of filing an injunction against the establishments that are selling the bath salts and spices. We have been dealing and trying to make bath salts and spices illegal, but they are chemicals, they're synthetics. So every time we would turn around, as soon as we would make a chemical illegal, the legislature would make it a chemical illegal, they would change the makeup of the drug, so then it would then be legal again. And a lot of times it was being changed prior to the law actually being taken effect. So we were fighting an uphill battle that we could not fight, we would never win. So Sheila Polk and Scott Blake took the approach of, let's go after the sellers of this product and see if there's a way that we can stop them from selling it. And the approach they took is that we identified these substances as a public nuisance, a nuisance to our community. And in doing that, we were able to convince the court, by stopping them from selling these products, we can reduce the public nuisance and the nuisance to the Yavapai County as a whole. And the courts, they accepted our argument that these drugs are causing harm to our community. Albeit they are legal, they are causing harm. It was a very intense, and it's being watched throughout the United States. We have law enforcement from many different states that are watching how we are doing this all over the state of Arizona. All the county attorneys are watching it to see if this is something that they also can do to try to stop this stuff from being sold just readily across the counter at your mini marts and everywhere else to anybody.
You know, and certainly thanks to Sheila Polk and her staff, because I think this really did take a creative solution, because like you said, you know, they keep changing the formula, and in the law you essentially have to define exactly what the drug is, and so this was really a challenge for the criminal justice system. You know, the other thing that I thought was really interesting, particularly in talking to Sheila, was some of the stories that were coming out from our healthcare providers. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but you might want to share some of that.
We've had some very graphic incidents where we're having kids that, and when I say kids, we're talking kids anywhere between 10 and 15, 20 years old that are using these chemicals. Where probation officers are having to literally sleep in the cells with the kid because the kid is curled up in a ball, afraid of the monsters that are there to eat him. And it's all because of the bath salts or the spice that they're using. Kids that are literally trying to peel their skins off. I look at it very much like the 60s, where the PCP and stuff like that, where these people were seeing monsters, tasting colors. The hallucinations are extremely vivid to these kids, and they are causing great harm to themselves. On top of the fact, the strain they're putting on the medical profession, because these kids they're extremely strong. They have no pain threshold. So the typical take them, twist their arm behind their back and hold them down, that does not apply, first and foremost, because most of them are actually strong enough to just pull it away from you, and secondly, it does not hurt them. It may break their bones, but it doesn't hurt. Well, if there's no pain, they can continue to do whatever they were doing. They're hurting family members, they're hurting husbands, wives, all these things. So there's a lot of serious injuries. There's deaths that are occurring. We had a death of a 17-year-old here in town a few weeks ago, which is everything is pointing right now towards the young man was using spice quite often, and we believe at this point that that's probably going to ultimately be the cause of death for him. And the thing is these kids don't know how powerful each substance is, because it's being increased all the time, and it's extremely powerful.
You know, and just to make a correction, because you really dated me, since I was a police officer during the PCP era, it was more the 70s and even a little bit into the 80s. But, and I remember back to those days, and the only way we had as law enforcement, if we came across people like this, was obviously there was a lot of times when these people were actually shot by law enforcement, but the only other way was to what we called choke them out, to cut off the blood to their brain at their carotid and just make them pass out. And it was a wild ride, because you had to get your arm around their neck. And then, like you said, I mean, PCP, they had this tremendous strength. You know, they had the hot flashes where they would take off all their clothes, and it's very similar to...
Very similar. We're having that now, where we're having people walking around naked. Not so much here in Cottonwood, but throughout the county, throughout the state, the country. I'm sure some of you have heard about the eating other people's faces and stuff like that. These are things that are the hallucinations that they are causing. And it's only getting worse because it's getting broader and broader and broader. And the hot flashes, their body temperatures are spiking, which is causing problems and health issues with their brains, because as we all know, your body temperature is not designed to run up to 105, 110 degrees, which is what's happening when they're taking these drugs. So even if the drug doesn't kill them, it's causing other issues inside of them, liver issues, kidney issues, because it's changing the chemical makeup of their bodies, which they will suffer for, maybe not today, but in the next 5, 10 years, 20 years, they're going to have kidney failure, liver failure, something like that.
You know, and in just talking to Sheila Polk and Marilee Fowler, our executive director of MAT Force, I'm aware of 2 cases. One where a kid, I believe, was taking bath salts or spice, one or the other, and ended up actually blowing out one of the valves in his heart, and had to have some really extensive heart surgery. The other one that I just heard about this week was a kid, and hopefully we can get some of these people on our MAT Force Speakers Bureau to get out there and talk to kids and parents and educate people on how dangerous this drug is. But this kid, again, was taking bath salts and passed out and ended up actually coding or dying 3 times to the hospital. And fortunately the paramedics were able to keep him alive. But this can have some pretty horrendous effects, and we know that it's made in China, in the Asian countries somewhere, and who knows what they really put in it.
Exactly. It's made primarily in China and Pakistan, and then it's shipped over here in large containers, and then it's distributed throughout, and quite literally it's being sold at your mini marts. It's being sold, I mean, there's not even an age limit on most of it, simply because it's not supposed to be for human consumption. That was one of the other things when we attacked the public nuisances. We were able to show that these these places know that it's being sold and consumed by humans, and that's one of the problems, is they have it written on the package, not for human consumption. However, everybody knows that that's exactly what it's going to be doing. They're not paying $50 for that little vial of bath salts, supposed bath salts, and going home and pouring it in their bathtub. That's not happening. They're smoking it, they're eating it, they're injecting it, they're doing however they decide to take it. And the spice is, again, a very small vial, depending on the quality of it. We now have 5X, 10X, 20X, and 30X, which, from my understanding, that's 5 times more powerful, 10 times more powerful. And that's one of the things that's causing problems. They're not taking that home, pouring it into a little bowl, and lighting it on fire, because they say it's potpourri. It's not potpourri. They're not sitting there smelling the aroma. They're smoking it. So everybody knows that they're ingesting it, and that's the problem, is they hid behind the not for human consumption to avoid the FDA, but we know they're using it to get high. And with the 5X, the 10X, some of these kids don't know which one they've got. And yesterday they smoked a joint with just regular spice, but today they get 10X. Well, it's 10 times more powerful. And presto, they think they can smoke just as much, and now then we have a kid that's comatose or attacking teachers.
Let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about bath salts, and maybe talk also a little bit about medical marijuana, which has been a real challenge, and also the recent ruling on SB1070 and what we're looking at for that. So come back and join us.
Meet the team at Arizona Smile Designers, offering complete, comprehensive, restorative, and aesthetic dentistry. Dr. Vergara and Dr. Lord specialize in dental health, implants, and cosmetic dental procedures. Expert staff and state-of-the-art equipment bring forth the most from your smile. Dr. Ripplinger conveniently comes to Arizona Smile Designers for oral surgery and complicated procedures. Visit Arizona Smile Designers at 350 South Willard in Cottonwood. Insurance and new patients are welcome. Call 634-8610.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here with our police chief, Jody Fanning. And we're talking a little bit about bath salts, and just kind of to conclude that topic, I think it's real important that parents get educated, and there's a great source of information at the MatForce website, which is matforce.org, and go on there. You can get tons of great information on it. The other thing is that we know that this probably isn't going to go away, and so if somebody knows their kids are obtaining it or knows somebody is selling it, who do they contact? You
can contact us at the police department. If it is one of the illegal substances, we can take it away from them and seize it. It's really difficult because, as we said, they change the chemical makeup of it constantly. But moreover, if the parents know that their child is taking it, then they need to step in and remove the substance from the child, take it away from them, and maybe take them to a MatForce, talk to some of the speakers, or see some of the speakers, or come by the police department and see if we can help you in some way. You can receive it over the internet. We know that that's what they're doing now. So if you got a child that has a credit card and able to purchase things over the internet, you might want to make sure what they're purchasing over the internet.
Okay, there you have it, folks, and help us out. If you see it being sold out there, let us know. Or if you have any questions, be sure and call our police department or contact MatForce and get the information you need to protect your kids in particular. Let's go on and talk a little bit more about drugs. And I know the state has really been struggling with medical marijuana.
Yes.
And I guess from a law enforcement perspective, you know, what kind of challenges does this new law create for law enforcement?
It's creating all kinds of nightmare challenges for us. First and foremost, we have to determine if we have somebody with marijuana, are they a card carrier? Is that card valid? What are they allowed to be carrying, what are they not, are they allowed to be smoking it where they're smoking it, are they allowed to be growing it. There's just all kinds of challenges. We haven't started seeing it yet because it's still not fully involved yet, but we're anticipating there's going to be more marijuana issues once it becomes available. We have the sites where they can buy it and sell it, the dispensaries, or if we don't get a dispensary, then we're going to have the grows, which we're going to have to deal with. And again, these are very complex because of the nature of the law, the way the law is written, and the protection of the grower. It's very difficult for law enforcement to cipher through who's allowed to grow, how much they're allowed to grow, when they're allowed to grow, what they're allowed to grow, and so it's going to be a battle for us.
So I know a lot of concern I've seen people express is related to DUIs or impaired drivers and marijuana, even if you have a medical marijuana card. You know, explain what the law is on that.
You still, even with a medical marijuana card, you still cannot drive and be under the influence of marijuana and impaired in any degree. My officers are very well trained and capable. I have multiple drug recognition experts, or DREs, on my police force that are able to recognize whether or not somebody is under the influence of marijuana, medical or otherwise. You cannot drive after you've been smoking marijuana. It does impair your ability and your capabilities.
And it's really the same with any prescription drug as well.
Exactly. It's just it's no different than taking an Oxycontin or an oxycodone and driving down the road. You can't do it. If we catch you, we will arrest you. Your medical marijuana card won't protect you.
Okay, good. You know, I think the other dilemma that government at all levels, and particularly law enforcement, faces is this, you know, this dichotomy between the state law and then what the federal law says. And I mean, how do you rectify that in law enforcement?
It's a very slippery slope and very dangerous area that we're in. We are required by law to uphold and enforce and not violate any laws, which includes federal. We can't enforce federal, but we are required not to violate federal law. And so, as law enforcement officers, we have a very dangerous area that we have to deal with in the fact of with marijuana. It is a federal law violation to possess, use, or smoke marijuana. It's not if you're a card carrier in the state of Arizona and you have marijuana, it's not against the law. So we have to be very careful. One of the questions that's been brought to our attention is if we see somebody's marijuana, do we have to give it back? Well, the police department will not be giving people back their marijuana. That we can't do that. That would make us a dispensary. That's against the law. We can't dispense marijuana. So if we take your marijuana, you're going to be out marijuana. So it's a very dangerous, and it's very hard for the police officers because they swear an oath when they become police officers to enforce and uphold all the laws. And now they're being told, okay, uphold and enforce this law, but not all the way, just part of the way. And emotionally, it's hard for them to sit there and decipher back and forth. You know, why am I doing this if I got two separate laws battling each other?
You know, and it's interesting because I read in the paper, I think it was this weekend, where there was a Yuma court commissioner that ordered that the police department or the sheriff's department give a person their marijuana back because they did have a valid California medical marijuana card, and now that is being challenged in court. And I think it's fair to say I think the lawyers in the courts are going to be busy with this one for a while, which kind of makes it difficult for everybody, but particularly law enforcement.
Exactly, and it is very difficult. The issues come up of if I take your marijuana and I hold it for a month while the court battle drags on and it dries out, it loses its THC level, so therefore it is not the same as I took it from you in the first place. And then the bottom line is it is illegal for me to dispense or provide you with a substance that is against the federal law. And I would bet that the judge down there in Yuma will lose, because I don't know that there's any way that the judge can order law enforcement to violate federal law. So I'm betting it's going to be a hard battle to win.
Yeah, you know, and it's also interesting watching what's going on in California with this issue, and you're seeing a lot of cities out there, LA in particular, trying to limit or actually do away with dispensaries because of the public safety concerns, and certainly that's got to be on your mind as well.
It is. The dispensaries and the grow areas are very big law enforcement issues, because they will, if you provide a location where there's drugs, and let's face it, marijuana is a drug. It is not medicine. It is a drug. When you provide a location where everybody knows that this substance is at, you're going to draw criminal activity. They will come. If you build it, they will come. The dispensaries in California, they have armed security walking the perimeter all the time. They have to, because they'll come in there and steal it. They break into the dispensaries. You know, there's crime associated with it. I'm not saying it's going to be the criminal element of all time, but if you got a building selling Kleenex, nobody's breaking in to steal the Kleenex. They will break in to steal the marijuana. So you're going to see an increase in criminal activity around that area, because there is a substance in there that people want and are willing to go to jail for. They were willing to go to jail for it before the state made it legal. They'll be willing to go to jail for it even more now.
And it'll be interesting to see, because we still haven't heard whether or not one of the dispensaries that wanted to set up in the Verde Valley, or specifically here in Cottonwood, actually was given a permit out of the dispensary lottery. So
right, we don't know where they're going to be. It's Sedona, Camp Verde, or us. Yeah. So
let's go ahead and take another break and come back and join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about immigration enforcement and SB 1070.
Meet the team at Arizona Smile Designers, offering complete, comprehensive, restorative, and aesthetic dentistry. Dr. Vergara and Dr. Lord specialize in dental health, implants, and cosmetic dental procedures. Expert staff and state-of-the-art equipment bring forth the most from your smile. Dr. Ripplinger conveniently comes to Arizona Smile Designers for oral surgery and complicated procedures. Visit Arizona Smile Designers at 350 South Willard in Cottonwood. Insurance and new patients are welcome. Call 634-8610.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and I'm here today with our police chief, Jody Fanning, and we've been talking a variety of drug issues, and I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to talk a little bit about immigration enforcement and SB 1070, another, you know, just a big challenge for law enforcement in terms of where this is going to go. And but what's the latest?
The latest is that Judge Bolt down in Phoenix just recently, I believe it was Wednesday night, we received notification that she had upheld the part of 1070 which allows law enforcement to ask a person their immigration status on a lawful contact. And it does not mean that we just get to walk up and start walking up and down the street and saying, hey, what's your immigration status? What's your immigration status? This has to be a lawful contact that the law enforcement officer is involved in. And there needs to be some sort of expectation that the person may not be here illegally. And a lot of that is going to come from, in the Cottonwood Police Department's eyes, we're going to be looking at, you know, whether or not they can speak English at all. And that's not only Hispanics. I mean, we have immigrants from Germany, we have immigrants from France, Japan, any place like that. And typically, a lot of those immigrants, the first thing they do is they hand us their passports when we make contact with them anyhow. So that clarifies a lot with us. But that's where it would be, is we would ask them what their immigration status is. However, with that being said, the issue now becomes is that the courts have said, well, you cannot detain them merely on their immigration status. So the police department would be stuck with a person that says, yes, I'm illegally in the United States. Now what do you want to do with me? If they have not committed a crime, let's say it's a speeding ticket, we write them a speeding ticket. What are you going to do? Well, there's not much we can do.
Yeah, you can't arrest them for speeding.
No, I cannot arrest them for speeding, so therefore their immigration status is not really going to mean anything to me, because we are already fully aware that ICE and immigration is not going to drive up here to pick up this gentleman and deport him back to whatever country he came from. Where this new 1070 actually will come into play is if we arrest a person. Let's say we arrest them for domestic violence, we arrest them for DUI, we arrest them for a criminal act that we are going to physically take them into custody, and we ask them, what is your immigration status? And they are not able to prove that they are legally here in the United States. When they get out to the county jail will then notify ICE and immigration, and then ICE and immigration can decide whether or not they're going to come up here and deport them or what they're going to do with them. But the police department themselves, we won't be doing very much at all, because our hands are still pretty much tied with it.
Of course, as I recall, everybody who ends up going to the county jail is checked for immigration status anyway, because there are detention officers trained at the county jail by the federal government to determine immigration
Most of them lost their 287G permits, but we still do it. They still confirm immigration status. That we don't do deportations, but they can still confirm immigration status. And it's, as it says in the law, it's fairly easy to do. If they have a driver's license or a birth certificate or a passport or a green card, it's fairly easy to do. It's the ones that have none of that stuff that takes a little bit more time and effort. And then, as I said, the county jail will be the one that would be doing most of that investigation. There's no need for the Cottonwood PD to be standing on the side of the road for 2.5 hours waiting for ICE to drive up from Phoenix for a gentleman that came across the border and didn't do what he was supposed to.
I got a feeling you'd be waiting a lot longer than that.
Yeah. If they even
if they even responded.
If they even respond, or they answer the phone. That was one of the topics that we've been told, is they may just not answer the phone.
Yeah.
So
again, another tough topic where there's really inconsistency between state and federal law. And I guess on the one hand, with medical marijuana, we're not consistent with federal law, which makes it very difficult. And then with SB1070, we're consistent with federal law. It just gets into the question of who really has the authority to enforce.
Exactly, and immigration is a huge issue. We all in law enforcement, we're all very much aware that there are illegal criminals that come across the border and to the United States to merely commit crimes, because let's face it, there's more money and property and items to steal and do things here. I'm not saying that all the immigrants come across the border are illegal or criminals. I'm just saying that there are criminals that come up here. But the immigration issue, there is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. I just don't know that it's local law enforcement's job to be doing that. I think the federal government really needs to step in and deal with this in an appropriate manner, instead of trying to jockey back and forth between local and state and federal.
You know, and we've got about a minute left here, so let's hit the city and what's going on in the city. Is anything they need to be aware of?
Nothing really big is happening. Most of our road construction's done right now. We have the Thunder Valley Rally starting next weekend.
Watch out for those motorcycles.
There'll be motorcycles all over the road. Everybody knows motorcycles are very hard to see, so please use some extra caution. There will be a lot of them in town. This is not the smokeout. These are not the same type of clientele as we had with the smokeout. These are your doctors, lawyers, businessmen riding their motorcycles for the weekend. So we don't expect a lot of problems with them. But there will be a lot of people in town. We will have extra officers out. The bicycle officers will be out. The motor officers will be out to help make sure we have a nice event. And other than that, we just have a lot of our fall activities. You have your youth footballs, you have your high school footballs, you have all your activities going on your weekends. Just make sure that everybody is being safe whenever they're doing it. We've been having a lot of incidents where we've had some of our youth having some issues with driving. So talk to your kids about making sure that we're driving safely and not hurting each other. So.
And certainly with schools back in session, be
yes.
careful out there.
In the school zones.
And we have a lot of road construction going on, so a lot of challenges out there when you're in your car. So be careful out there and stay safe.
Yes.
So, well, thanks, Chief, for coming in.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining us on Inside Cottonwood, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time around.